Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Sudan's Prime Minister Abdalla Hamdok has been moved to an unknown location after refusing to issue a statement in support of an ongoing military coup. The country's information ministry says joint military forces holding Hamdok under house arrest were pressuring him to issue a supportive statement. It cited Hamdok calling on the Sudanese people to resist the coup attempt peacefully and defend their revolution. Political analyst Professor Ibbo Mandaza joins us now via Zoom for analysis. A very good morning to you, Professor Mandaza. Before we get into the conversation, perhaps congratulations are in order. You've just been appointed adjunct professor at the School of Governance at Wits University. How are you hoping to go into this role?
Well, it means I'll be seeing you more often than before in South Africa. But thanks to COVID, the only good thing about it in the circumstances that I don't have to be domiciled in South Africa. I'll be working from here and supervising PhD students like yourself.
Well, we hope. Thank you. Well, congratulations once again. Well, let's to this conversation. Reports are coming in that security forces in Sudan have moved Prime Minister Abdalla Hamdok to an unknown location after he refused to issue a statement in support of an ongoing coup. Our reporter, Sarah Kimani, just confirming to us just now that it has now been classified as a coup. What should we be making of developments in Sudan?
It's very sad indeed. As you know, there was hope after the abdication of Omar Shir in April 2019 and the subsequent establishment of the Juba Agreement, which set up the transitional government. Transition towards civilian rule by 2023. So in the last few weeks, there's seen major divisions, first of all, among the civic groups under the Forces for Freedom and Change, the major grouping that has been responsible for the major demonstrations and the process towards the transitional arrangement, the Juba Agreement of 2019. That is split between those who persist in the demand that there will be civilian rule as planned, and those who are on the side of the military. It appears that the latter have prevailed. Things are moving very quickly because I thought this morning that it was still 50-50, so to speak, with Hamdok calling for the democratic forces to rally behind his government. So it's a very sad development indeed.
What will be the implications of delaying the transition to a civilian rule?
Well, it means basically you're back to square one. You are back to a military government as before. As you know, Sudan has been almost institutionalized military rule for decades. And the Juba Agreement offered so much hope. So everything is really in reverse now if the coup succeeds. In reverse means the crisis persists, the economic and political crisis persists, and it's very sad indeed.
Why are these demonstrations erupting now at this stage of the process?
Then what happened as part of the what can I say, the resolution of the economic crisis in Sudan, the government of Abdalla Hamdok had to engage the international financial institutions, the proverbial IMFs and World Banks, towards some kind of package to assist in the economic recovery. Typically and characteristically, such measures, such packages come with them enormous difficulties for the population. Austerity measures in particular, and these are the ones that have provoked this series of demonstrations in the last few weeks. And clearly I think Hamdok and his administration did not assess too closely the possible implications of effecting the IMF packages. And likewise, I think the Western world was too overzealous, in my view. Didn't give enough space to the new government. They were more than paternalistic, in my view. You notice that the US in particular has been too overbearing, in my view, too obtrusive, in my view, in the process. So here we have the reactions, but in particular reactions to the growing economic difficulties in Sudan.
And Prof, while we
back to the future. So,
almost like, yeah. While we have you here, let's just ask you about a planned protest, Zanupf protest in Johannesburg, led by a Kennedy Mandaza. I don't know if there's any relation, to try and persuade Western powers to scrap sanctions against Zimbabwe. What do we know about this protest?
I know nothing. I don't know. Kennedy Mandaza is no relative of mine. I know nothing about it, but I'm not surprised at the protests. I think today is supposed to be some anti-sanctions day or something, which has meant little or nothing to most of the population in Zimbabwe, for whom the sanctions debate is either very, very marginal politically, and it's really a political football, in my view. And even though the region has taken up the mantra of the anti-sanctions campaign, there is still not enough, in my view, in the public domain as to what really sanctions mean and what are the implications in terms of the political process going forward. Mm. Yes, there's no doubt that the sanctions have had its toll in Zimbabwe. But equally, there is the whole legacy of mismanagement and indeed misgovernance, corruption, cartels in the country, and so on and so forth. So really, to confine the issue to sanctions might be misleading, in my view, and yet not surprising politically.
Is there any significance in using South Africa as a platform to launch this protest action?
Well, South Africa, through Ramaphosa in particular, have taken up the anti-sanctions mantra, which is nice, which is good, as a good neighbor. But equally, they've been less than forthright about dealing with the crisis in Zimbabwe as a whole. You know, so while there might be a demonstration against sanctions, there should be equally, along in civic society in South Africa in particular, a demonstration too about the goings on in Zimbabwe, continued crisis, economically and politically.
Yeah.
And that is why we in Zimbabwe have been looking at the idea of transitional authority, such as we have in Sudan. And I did warn my friend Hamdok. Hamdok was the colleague we worked with together at SABC in 1998. I warned him about the dangers of including the military in the transitional arrangements. But then it is a reflection of the dominance, or the hegemonic dominance of the military in Sudan, that they could not avoid having them in the transitional authority. But in Zimbabwe's context, our plea is that the military should go back to the barracks as a precondition for any settlement, any transitional arrangement.
Are you concerned for his safety?
For Hamdok, yes, I'm very concerned. But an hour ago, he was still safe. He was still safe, and safe enough to issue a statement calling for the democratic forces to rally around the thrust for civilian rule in Sudan. I don't think they'll harm him, nor the others. I think the military know very well that they have to see another day, and they will need to garner some kind of support initially. to survive. If they get into killings, that will really, they know themselves as military people, that they can engulf the country in a massive crisis. So we hope that Hamdok and all those who have been detained by the military are safe and remain safe.
Professor Mandaza, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Tezre.
Giving us analysis there on the latest in Sudan and also that planned march of the Zanupf in Joburg.